So thank you all for being live and in person. You're the ones that are going to hear this first. It is also on YouTube, and the recording will be, as we were talking about earlier, lasting, for as long as it makes sense. The information we're going to be sharing, I think, is going to be applicable for several years. And so watch for the information both in the blog and the YouTube. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber, and we're very fortunate today to be going into the next stage of the Doing Business in ... series because we haven't done one on France yet. We've done some events about different parts of France, but we haven't done a series on France. And we're actually going to be focusing in on Eastern France, and we have two experts actually here with us today, although JB Deal, who's zooming in from Hong Kong, who is an expert and a representative of Invest Eastern France, he'll be giving us kind of the starting point. What I suggest for everybody is just to send in your information in the chat area, so feel free to post all along the way, and then send in questions. But we will also be able, ideally, if you raise your hand at the end, be able to ask you questions and have you ask your questions live. So I think we should have enough time. We'll also be hearing, besides from Jean Baptiste Deal, who is the founder and managing director of Avant Agents. We'll also be hearing from Renee Meyer, who, as some of you may remember, was part of our first event this year in 2022. That event was on global mindset, and she helped get us kicked off for the year to have our global mojo working in a proper way. Today, we're going to take that global mojo and we're going to focus it in on a region, and just really pleased to have both of these experts with us. You prefer JB, I presume, Jean Baptiste, is that true?
Yes, I guess it does make more sense because it's hard to pronounce. So it's more simple, I would say. But,
so when people in Hong Kong, do you probably in France they call you Jean Baptiste, and in China they call you JB? How does that work?
Yeah, well, I go by JB, Jean Baptiste. It really depends and I also have a Chinese name, Mr. Dai. So it really depends, but I'm easygoing, I can go with anything. Yeah.
Okay. What does your Chinese name mean?
Well, in Chinese, you normally have 3 characters for a name. It can be sometimes 2 or 4, but usually it's 3. So the first character is Dai. It's the family name. It means carry, carry something. But there are only about 100 Chinese family names. So this one is the most closely phonetically related to my English name, which is Deal, but in French it's Deal with an accent. Yeah, so my first character is Dai, carry, and then Tian, healthy, and Bai, pine tree. So I've got a very funny Chinese name, but it's a good Chinese name, healthy, strong, and that's what it means. So it's a good name. Yeah.
So you've become an expert on China, but you were actually born in France, and a lot of your expertise on the region and in the country is based off of living there and then working there later in your life.
Correct. I arrived in China about 20 years ago, and I started my adventure by learning Mandarin Chinese at the Beijing Language and Culture University. And after that, I've been working for different organizations, US, Italian, French, Chinese, before setting up my own company. And that was 5 years ago. And since that time, I've been a business accelerator. So as a business accelerator, I help companies and organizations from around the world to work among each other. You can look at me and see me as a bridge between continents and between organizations. So my focus is really, and my strength is really on language, obviously English, French, and Chinese. Understanding the culture, which will be the second one. It's very good to be open we have a tendency usually as humans to be somewhat ethnocentric. And this is important to remember. We are talking and negotiating with, different people. So we have to understand their point of view and try to bridge the gap. And actually the third point is negotiation, so negotiation is a very key point. And actually it's kind of a sign because my name is Deal, but the third point is negotiation for strength. So I did a few programs on negotiation at Harvard in the US. I also did my MBA at HKUST here in Hong Kong. And so negotiation is something that I like to enjoy doing, especially the part regarding value creation. There's a misconception that negotiation sometimes is just like a zero-sum game and whoever takes more wins. But actually it's not. The key is to identify how, areas of value where you can create value. And some things might have value for someone, but no value for the other. So the key and the game is to really identify how to create value and how to increase the size of the pie on the table. The third point is negotiation. The next one will be network, because we all come from one region, and our network might be strong in one location, but not so strong in another location. So I try to develop my network, and I'm always doing a lot of activities, meeting a lot of different people, part of a lot of different groups. And so network is key to get access to information and also, avoid pitfalls and, make things go faster, so this is very key. And the fifth point, which is also very important, is, which is actually critical, is integrity, because I've seen a lot of different things in the past. And, sometimes they might make sense in terms of business in a very short term, but actually in the long term, they're really not good. And, you should always stay true to your value and to what you think is right, whatever the situation. So, be straightforward and but to come back a little bit, I've been here for 20 years. And I started working with Invest East and France for a few years. And of course, I work with other organizations in procurement, sales, and investment. Very quickly, for procurement, I've been working for a few years with a TV shopping company to identify product, negotiate prices, exclusivity, those kind of issues. But I also get involved, for example, in product recall and inventory management, those kind of critical situations. For sales, and business development would be, for example, franchise development in China, or it could be, e-commerce, cross-border e-commerce platforms. I have I would say a small network of partners, and I can get things done basically. And the third one would be investment, and also connecting investors with project owners. And sometimes, for example, connecting with the Chinese state-owned enterprises, or different types of situation. So okay. All of this is leading to Invest East and France. And I'm not a government employee. I'm a contractor. So for the last few years, I've been working with the team at Invest. How we call them, casually. Initially, it used to be, this program has been running for many years, and it used to be called Access Alsace, Access Alsace, which is from the region of Alsace. But you may not know, but France went through a restructuring in terms of its regions recently, and a few regions merged. Including Alsace, Champagne, and Lorraine, to form what we call the Grand East. And so that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'll be sharing a presentation, and in fact, we can go ahead.
Okay, give us in terms of about how many minutes for your presentation, and then when you're finished, I'll come to you, Renee, and then we'll open it up the floor for questions from everybody. About how long is your presentation?
Well, basically, I've got about 15 slides. So I guess we can make it in 15 minutes, something like that. But of course, the Q&A or even 10 minutes, and then the Q&A can be a bit longer later if you have more questions. And I'm sure
Great.
Renee will have a very, will be instrumental for this presentation. Yeah.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for coming in today. Thank you for your support of Global Chamber. Congratulations on your success, and we look forward to learning about the art of the deal, really from somebody who knows about dealing across borders. So please go ahead.
Wonderful. All right, let me share my screen. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
We can, yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so we are here to introduce Invest and Friends. As I mentioned, it covers all regions of Alsace, Champagne, Ardenne, and Lorraine. And actually, I was born in Champagne. This is something that I did not mention before, in a city called Reims. So you can see on the screen the cathedral, which is about 800 years old. So very old, cathedral, very old building. And the region started, 2,000 years ago. There were already Roman people, living in the region. All right, so what is Invest and Friends? Basically, it's a government agency. It's a government program from the Grand East region, and the agency is called Grantee Nord. But what we are here for is to basically provide support to international companies. So what are we? We are a region that is inside what we call the blue banana. So the blue banana is what we call the wealthy Europe, and it goes from the UK down to the north of Italy, and that has a form of banana. So that's basically the wealthy Europe. So we are at the heart of a very dynamic and stimulating business environment. We also direct access to the main Western European market. And we also provide free and confidential support, basically. So the key thing is, why do people want to go to Europe first? It's basically a key pillar of the world economy. Probably if you look at it, China, US, and Europe would be about 15–20% each of the world GDP. So definitely at some point when you expand internationally, you want to go into Europe. And Eastern France is really at the center of Europe. So this is what we are as a region. So as you can see on the map, we're next to Switzerland, next to Germany, next to Luxembourg, next to Belgium. And so we have high-speed train lines, airports, and we are quite well connected to the rest of Europe, really at the center of Europe. And there's also something very important about Alsace, which is, German mindset, because if you remember history, this region of France used to belong to Germany, and then became French, and then German, and then French. It switched hands between different countries. And that's why today you have about 40% of the people in Alsace who speak German fluently. And in fact, if you look at Strasbourg, which is the capital of Alsace and Grand East, there's even a tram line that goes directly into Germany. It doesn't stop at the border. It goes over the border. Today the European Union is a common market, and that's really what it is. And actually, that can explain why Strasbourg has been selected as one of the European capital of the European Union. So that you find the European Parliament, and you find a lot of embassies. Although it's not a country's capital, you still find embassies because of its role, in terms of the European Parliament, and as a European capital, you also find different types of organization. So there are a lot of, it's really an international economic powerhouse. There's more than 2,000 foreign companies that are located in that region. And in fact, the foreign company and FDI represent over 50% of the local GDP, which is huge. It's also the second region in France for FDI in terms of manufacturing, and also the first region in terms of destination for German and Austrian companies, and also the second destination for companies from the US. And obviously, because of the market, its proximity with Germany, you can do one, as we say in Chinese, you can do two birds with one stone, basically target the German and the French market all at once. And that's really one of the strengths of the region. So you see a lot of different logos of different companies that are located in the region. I'm sure you're familiar with some of them. And we cover a lot of different industries. So in a nutshell, the excellence of the region will be based on its research and quality of education. You can read a lot of details on the slides, so I won't read everything. But basically, a few key points. There are 5 active Nobel Prize winners in the region. So this is really a sign to show that the quality of education is paramount. You have access to a lot of very high level, R&D centers, universities, and grand écoles, so engineering schools. So we have a lot of innovation clusters also. And the innovation cluster really shows a strong support from the government, regional government, city level government to develop strength in different areas. So we have what we call the Bio Valley. So actually the Bio Valley is really more than just the region. It also covers northern Switzerland and also a part of Germany. So it's kind of a triangle where you find a lot of the R&D centers for the healthcare industry in Europe. And so it will be very relevant for pharmaceutical, biotech company, medtech companies. We'll cover more details later, but so Bio Valley is quite famous. We also have the IAR, or the bioeconomy, the Pôle Véhicule du Futur, which is basically an automotive industry innovation cluster. The next one is called Fibre Énergie, Pôle Fibre Énergie, which is basically about energy efficiency and especially in building technology. The next one is called Materialia, which is really about materials, as you can guess from the name. It's very important in aeronautics, automotive, energy, and healthcare. And the last one is called Hydros, and it's about water management. So those are key innovation cluster, and they're located, all over the region. So in a nutshell, we have 10 industries of excellence. The first one, you can make 3 groups basically, but if you go into the details, it's roughly about 10 industries. So advanced manufacturing, what we call Industry 4.0 is one of them, a big one. It covers automotive, it covers aerospace. The second one would be for bioeconomy, which is also very strong, and health. So healthcare is really one of the key strengths of the region, and we are going to talk a bit more about this one. But it's also, as you saw before, the region is at the center of Europe, so it also makes a lot of sense in terms of logistics. It also makes a lot of sense in terms of services. Having, for example, a headquarters based in the region would make a lot of sense for the EU operation. Yeah, so in terms of industry, let's focus on health. And you can come back to me and ask any question if you I have a lot of different presentations for every of those industries. So so this is about the healthcare, and we're going to talk about biotech and life science in general and medtech. So I'm going to give you a few numbers, but basically we have about 400 companies, major companies, and major research and training centers and institutes. Companies select the region for manufacturing, especially in terms of pharmaceutical, bioproduction, prosthesis. Focus on prosthesis. We have what we call prosthesis Sud Champagne, the prosthesis valley, basically. And that's where we make about 40% of the world prosthesis are manufactured in the region of Grand East. Not many people know about it, but this is a key center of production of prosthesis worldwide. So manufacturing is very strong. R&D is also very strong. You know, we have a lot of, yesterday I was talking to a company, you know, they have a project in stem cells, and really they're cutting edge, and they're, you know, interested to talk with different universities and research organizations, and this is really really a key focus, R&D. And actually, I can already tell you that France is really supporting R&D projects. It has one of the best tax credits in the whole of the EU, and it can cover up to 30% of the R&D expenditures, or about 100 million euro maximum per year of tax credit. And so this is really substantial. The third one would be obviously commercial development. And when we talk about an outstanding access to the European market, for example, you can have people based in Strasbourg that, you know, when you pick up the phone, you call in from a German, you know, a country code, and you call in, and then someone in German will answer the phone. But basically, they're based in Strasbourg. And if someone calls in from France, you know, using a French country code, someone exactly in the same location will speak in French. You know, so this is really what it means to be in Europe today, and we're part of the EU. So people speak a lot of different languages, and yeah, so it's what it would present in terms of commercial development and one of the strengths of the region. So in terms of coming back to the health sector, we have the Bio Valley, which is one of the top European health cluster. Materialia, dedicated to the development of new material, prosthesis, for the prosthesis, obviously prosthesis valley. NextMed also for the MedTech campus. And I've covered a lot of this other details. So let's move on. You can see here key names and you know, companies and organizations that will be very well known. In terms of companies, I'm sure you know medicine companies, companies in chemical industry, in you know, different types of industries. But 40% of the world pharma companies are located in the region, so it's really a key focus. I think, you know, if you are in the healthcare industry, you should definitely come and visit. Yeah, we'll be happy to, you know, host you. All right, so if I mentioned about 5 Nobel Prize winners. You can see their pictures here, and when they got the award, and what was this topic, the subject. And 4 of them were in chemistry and 1 in medicine. And this is really a testament to the quality of the R&D in the region. We also have a lot of players in the medtech sector, and yeah, in terms of education and research also, for example, we have, I'm just going to focus on one of them, the EARCAD, which is a cancer treatment center, and really specialized in education and research related to cancer. So we have also a lot of players in the e-health sector, and we have a lot of strong support from the, you know, authorities. And yeah, so this is very general information, but basically the way it works is, you know, we ask companies to present their project, you know, and when they have a clear project, we will build a proposal. So all of this might be relevant to you or not relevant to you, so that's why I will just quickly go over. But if you have questions, we'll be talking about, you know, your questions. Those are examples of success stories and companies that invested in the region for the project. When actually the name is called Invest System France, this is the name of the program. But the key focus is basically job creation and creating value in terms of how many jobs can be created in the region. That is the reason why the program exists. And I just make a focus on this because this is the most important part. So as long as we identify that a company has a project and that they will create jobs in the region, especially for R&D, especially for manufacturing, they can expect a very strong support. But of course, any project will qualify for support as long as jobs are created in some way or another. So you can see success stories from US companies. We also have success stories from Chinese companies, for example, with Huawei. It's not really in the healthcare industry, but it's still very relevant. So companies from Japan, US, other part of Europe, China will invest in the region. And most of them actually come to us directly. We don't go to them, they come to us. Yeah, so we also have a business accelerator. We have a startup accelerator program. It's called Scale-Innov. It doesn't show here, but basically you have a lot of success stories for startups that got founded in the region. And yeah, so what can we do basically? We are here to support you, to support companies with projects. We provide financial and non-financial support, and we provide support at different levels. So we can also mobilize, connect with different organizations at European level, national level, regional level. So we are on the regional level, but we also have city level support. So, for example, non-types of support would be helping to find a site, production site, or an office, a suitable office, and we'll be helping with that. We can also help, for example, a lot of things. For example, relocation of family, finding an international school for the kids. We can also find partners. We can definitely, the governor has the support and the network to, put people in, make the connections. And in terms of financial support, as I mentioned earlier, we have one of the strongest R&D tax credit program in the whole of the EU, up to 100 million euro per year. We also have cash grants and a lot of different types of financial support that can be obtained. But basically the way it works is because there are too many programs, we really ask companies to prepare a business plan, after 1 year, maybe 2, 3, 5 years down the line, what is it about? Do they have a clear idea of what they're trying to achieve? What is the project about, the business plan, a timeline, functions, how many staff count will be involved. And based on that, we will build a proposal. And in that proposal, you can expect to have, different types of support. So of course, coming back to the region, we are located in a quite enjoyable part of France, very good climate, good food, also food in France, and good wines, especially in the Alsace region. We also have champagne, which is very key. So it's one of the good region in terms of France for gastronomy, and I think you will enjoy visiting. And it's also a very interesting place with a lot of activities to be done for museums. If you're a fan of music, we also have a Philharmonic orchestra, opera festivals. If you have the chance to come in Alsace around Christmas, the Christmas market is very well known, and I think people enjoy to visit it. It's really a big attraction in the region. And yeah, so basically, I'm JB. You can connect. You have my contact on the screen. You can connect with me anytime. I'm an authorized correspondent for the region of Grand East and working with Invest System France for a few years now. Before I was working with Access Alsace, and now with Invest System France. And yeah, so I have a Hong Kong number, I have a mainland Chinese number, mainland China number, and you can contact any of us. We are providing free and confidential service for the region. So the step one is we advise you on strategic options. The second one is we'll help you to identify a location. Third one is about money. How can we support you with public, programs? And the next one is usually we organize a look and see trip. So of course, with the pandemic, we can do a lot of things remotely, but it's still better to come and visit, so you can really have a look and see trip, which is very important. We can introduce you with local strategic partners. So when we talk about partners, could be, lawyers, could be, company secretary, it could be, sometimes even distribution partners or R&D partners. It really depends. Of course, we are not here to do business development. We will not engage in business development. This is off limits. Otherwise every company would come to find us. But we are here to support, and we can make connections. So we also help with the relocation of the staff or the expats to make life easy in the region. And yeah, that's about it. So I guess we can cover questions. And
fantastic.
Yeah.
How often are you in the region, and when do you decide to go visit?
Well, basically I was born in Reims, which is in Champagne. So obviously I go back for family reasons. But lately, due to the pandemic, I've been here stuck in Hong Kong in a bubble for quite some time now. But usually I would say I would go back to Europe maybe once or twice a year. Sometime I would go to the US once a year. I would go to China normally in Shenzhen and Guangdong every week. And I would go maybe to Shanghai every month and Beijing every 2-3 months, something like that. That's normally what I would be doing.
Amazing. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Before we open for questions, let's have Renee talk a little bit about your perspectives, both on the opportunities in the Grand Est and also anything you'd like to comment on and build on relative to what JB talked about. Renee, are you available? And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you are an intercultural expert. You have Swiss and American citizenship, and you work business primarily between the Midwestern US and the Grand Est, and primarily in healthcare, life sciences, and technology. And so you've got quite a bit of focus, as JB does, on that region and a lot of expertise. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or that I left out, or that I got wrong? And then please go ahead.
Well, I think that JB did a wonderful job. So everything that I thought I was going to say, he already said. I can only emphasize what he said. So I am really a fan. I'm really a cheerleader for Alsace, for the Grand Est. It is really a region where things are going. I think it's really very dynamic. And I have decided to link the Grand Est with the Midwest, because they don't know anything about each other. And I really think that they have a lot in common. You might not know, but Strasbourg is the sister city of Boston. So they've been sister cities for 60 years, and there is a program already in place where they send companies back and forth. And I said, this is wonderful. Boston is a wonderful place to be, but everybody can't go to Boston. Of course, Boston is expensive. Boston is, there's not a lot of lab space left. And I think that you don't receive such a red carpet treatment as you do in Alsace. And I think that GB has told you exactly what kind of treatment you would receive. And I think that people coming from the Midwest really can relate much easier to Alsace than to Paris. I mean, Paris is a capital city. The Parisians are what they are. And I think that that's a mentality that perhaps doesn't match as well with the Alsace mentality. And as GB said, we have this Germanic side of it, which we do in the Midwest also. Here in Ohio, we have German Village in Columbus. There were hundreds of thousands of Germans and North Europeans that settled in the Midwest in the late 19th century. So we really have this mentality of innovation. this mentality of hard working. And I always like to say, we also have in common with Alsace, with the Grand Est, we have the largest groundwater regions in the world, in our hemispheres, in our continent. So here we have the Great Lakes region, and in Alsace we have this whole the groundwater that is the biggest in Europe. So I think that we also have the same concerns about water, about the usage of water, and so healthcare as well as the whole bioeconomy economy. Talking about environmental type things, we have these same concerns. I might just add that I just moved to Strasbourg from Colmar, so I've been in Alsace 15 years. After 17 years in Basel, Switzerland, so I really know the region quite well. I know the differences between Switzerland and France. I made a conscious decision to move to France. It really is a wonderful region. If you like to be outdoors, we have the most bike paths of any city in France, in Strasbourg, and they are just adding to them. We have a very ecologically minded government, so this is really a major emphasis. We have lots of activities that help us get outside, that help us preserve the nature. I think as France does in general, but in the eastern part, we really are very aware of environmental problems, and we're working on things. We're working on solutions, and that I'm personally very happy about. The international community you spoke about, I've just started doing some things with the Latin American community, and I think I could go dancing 5 nights out of the week. You could go dancing salsa and merengue and all of this. So it's a very dynamic community, and of course the food and wine are just fantastic. You know, we have the vineyards. Last month I took part in what they call Slow Down. This is an event that has, I think this is the 5th year. So they closed the whole wine road in the 2 departments where Alsace is on a Sunday. And you can go for a 39-kilometer ride without any motorized vehicles. So anything, walk, skates, bikes. And along the way, you can have sausages and you can have foie gras and nice wine while you're biking. And it's an epitome of this region, you know, combining physical activity with the drinking with the environment. And how can you, and the other activity are these gastronomic walks. So we walk in the vineyards and then we take a little break and we eat some very nice cheese and we walk along some more. We have a very nice meal and it's just incredible. So that's my pitch for Alsace, for the Grand Est, and
Amazing.
Not the serious part, but really the reason that you should be there.
Fantastic. Congratulations and great information. Let's open it up to the floor. I don't see any hands raised, but does anybody have a question for either Renee or JB or both? Please go ahead, unmute yourself and feel free to go ahead. I see Lainey has a burning question. I can feel it in your brow. You have something you want to ask, don't you?
Well, of course I do. And, you know, listening to Renee, I'm ready to get on a plane. So fortunately, I know she would welcome me, but I have sort of a 2-part question is there an American expat community in the region already? And what about language? Is there support for learning French? I'm sure that a lot of business takes place in English, but are there programs that people coming into the region can take to develop their French skills?
I could just speak more about the American side of it, and that I'm a member of the Alsace États-Unis Association. We just had a big 4th of July party. We have a large consulate here, and I'm directly in contact with the consulate. Unfortunately, she is leaving, but we really have good working relationship with them. They're out in the community, and they are also the link between the U.S. and the Council of Europe. The council here is responsible for that. And there's also another organizations, Americans in Alsace. There are several American organizations here. As far as learning French, there are programs. I mean, I just have to say honestly that the French they like their language, and you need to learn a little bit of it. And this is one of the roles that I have been playing, is to try to convince French companies that they need to make sure that they have English in there, that their website is translated in English. I've noticed that NextMed, you had it on your slide, G-Bay. NextMed is a big hospital complex that is being created in the middle of Strasbourg, and their website is in English. The Parisian equivalent, their website is only in French. And it's called Paris Centre Campus. And so, I think with that, we are really in a good position, also being close to Germany and Switzerland. So, I mean, I can't say that everything is in English, but I think that there is a lot of effort that is made, and there certainly is a way to be trained in that. And GB, maybe you have some more formal answers on that.
Yeah, JB,
yes.
Working with Chinese companies and other nationalities, how easy is it to acclimate to the region, whether they're English or other language speaker?
Well, basically, you can look at a few facts. And number one is Strasbourg is home to the European Parliament. So there are basically people from 27 countries from the EU that come to the region very regularly. And they come and they live there. We also have the European School of Strasbourg, so they come with their family. So, so as you can expect, people are very used to speaking English.
Okay.
Yeah, and for kids also, we have international schools. If you worry about that, we have sufficient amount of options for schooling. English, usually it's binational, so you can choose, for example, English French, or even French German, or we have different types of schools that you can go to. But definitely English is the most commonly available language in the region.
Okay, interesting. How would you compare Strasbourg with, say, Zurich in terms of language, or Geneva? Both of those cities are pretty. I remember I was so surprised to see our office in Geneva, where everybody seemed to speak English, French, German, Italian, Spanish. Like, it's all coming out. Is it similar in Strasbourg? Well,
I'll be very general. Switzerland is a country that is made up of, that has 4 official languages. They have what we call the canton, the different regions, and each one of them will speak a different language based on where they are from. So they're very used to speaking different languages. And in Alsace, we also have something very similar. As I mentioned earlier, there used to be a lot of wars in Europe before the EU. And 1870, 1914, 1939, those are the Great Wars, basically. And that region of Alsace switched side, became German, French, German, switched side many times. Some people lived in the region, actually changed nationality, just sitting there and living in the same house, for a few times in their lifetime, So it really shows that basically people are a bit more international than anywhere else. And they are quite open, and that's the reason again why you find the European Parliament. And so I think it's probably one of the easy place where you can adapt the most, the best, I guess.
Okay, fantastic. What other questions are out there? Good to see you, Zach. And who else is in the audience? Allison, thank you for joining. Christopher Herring, young man. He's been diagnosed with COVID for a couple days, and so fortunately it's not catchable via Zoom. So thank you for joining. You must not be able to sleep or something, or you're getting better. I hope. I hope you're feeling better. Any questions from anyone?
Hey, Doug, Cesar here. Just not a question, just a comment.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. So I saw that you were talking about roller coaster at the beginning of the call. So over 10 years ago, I went to I think still is the biggest theme park in Europe. It's in Germany, but it's very close. It's just in the border with Strasbourg, and so I just wanted to mention that because it's an interesting park. I had, because of that, I went to Strasbourg and I toured the region. So from Ohio to that part of the world, from roller coaster to another, I just wanted to add that.
It's a universal craziness, I think. So
Yeah.
So have you been to that one, Renee, and compared it to Cedar Point?
I have. It's called Europa Park. It's very. I think you're right, Cesar. I think it's the largest one in Europe. It's very nice. It's a little bit more sophisticated, shall we say, than Cedar Point, because they have different, like, little cities for different countries. And so it's not just rides. It's also, they have kind of shows and theaters and all of that. So it is quite nice, and it's very close to Strasbourg, just across the border.
Huh.
So that is another reason to come.
Okay, sort of like an Epcot Center type of a thing.
Yeah, a little bit, but it does have nice roller coasters too. So.
Okay.
Exactly.
Very good. I meant to ask you, Renee, how do you split your time? Because you live in Strasbourg, right? And then
Yes.
you come back to the U.S. like once a year?
I've since we've been out of COVID and I've been able to travel again, I'm here twice a year.
Twice.
For personal and professional reasons. I became a grandmother in January, so that's
great.
one reason to be here a little bit more often.
Yay.
And I'm a member of the French American Chamber of Commerce in Chicago, so I go there every time that I'm here. I see Global Chamber members, of course, and I travel around the region because I really need to, and I am building up my network here. So tomorrow I'm having lunch with someone from Bio, Ohio.
Okay.
And Ohio is doing an incredible amount to bring people to Ohio. So I'm not working for them, but trying to work with them, because I think, if I could just mention, I think that there's a lot to be done in linking pipelines. And I know this is not something that economic development organizations always do. It's a bit novel because that doesn't always bring in 50 jobs. When you bring in a by pipeline, I'm talking about small and medium organizations and startups in the medtech area. But if you bring in, say, 4 startups that each have 20 people, that's 80 jobs, And I think that you're building up a center where even more of the pharma industry, the medtech industry, will be interested in coming. So I'm interested in people's reactions to that. What you think about trying to link up pipelines. For example, yesterday I was in Ann Arbor and I talked to someone who's associated with the university, the med school and the engineering school, and they have an accelerator. And I want to put them in contact with one of our accelerators in Strasbourg that's also working between the university and industry, because I think that there's things that they could share. You always have the question of IP, but I'd like to bring this question maybe to the Global Chamber group. Does this make sense to link pipelines in this life science area?
Anybody have any thoughts about that? JB, is that a concept that you also advocate for, and how do you approach that? Or are you going after the big fish?
Well, what I can say is we're interested by any project that will create value in the region.
Sure.
I know it's really general, but we go down from startups to big companies. For startups, we have an accelerator program. It's called Scale Enough. So the company have to show that they have a good concept. a basic proof of concept, POC, and then some, some traction, I would say, on the market. And then they can enter, they will be selected, they can enter the accelerator program. So the benefits of joining an accelerator would be, of course, to get access to the network of the region, connect with a lot of different companies. Most likely you will be based also in a a place where you can meet a lot of different other partners also, so very important. You can also get connected, get connections with investors, European investors. We have pretty strong support from different, investors in the region, and even, public banks, for example. So it really depends on the project and what is the, what is the project about. But we start coming back to, the main topic. We support small companies and also big companies as long as they create value locally. And what we mean by create value is creating jobs for the most part. And so we are very open and we are here to support, free and confidential support. So let us know and we'll see what we can do for you.
It's hard to argue with free and confidential, as long, and the capabilities that you have are amazing. Let's wrap things up. And Renee, why don't you go first? Do you have some closing comments that you'd like to make? Anything to either emphasize or that we left out of the conversation that people should be thinking about?
I really don't have anything in particular. As I said, I have a very personal, I think I have a personal commitment to Alsace now, just because I feel it, because I think it's a booming area, and that's coming from Basel, so I know what's going on there also. And I think we just need to, people like myself and GB are good to cheer for Alsace. I think that we don't stand up for ourselves enough, and the Parisians do, and we should feel, Alsatians should feel strong enough to say, hey, listen, we can offer the same and even more. So if you're looking to enter the EU market, I certainly think that Alsace, the Grand Est, is a good place to look. The UK is no longer an option. So American companies used to go to the UK all the time. That, as I said, it's no longer an option. And Alsace, the Grand Est is really a good alternative. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Why is the UK no longer an option? Is that because of leaving the EU, you mean?
Exactly.
Okay. So you lose access to the EU countries.
The common market, right? Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So I love when you advocate for being unreasonable. I'm all for it. And as we've talked about in other meetings, I mean, nothing in the world is necessarily changed if we're reasonable, and we tend to be reasonable people that when we're doing trade, right? We talk and we listen, we mediate, we negotiate, and all those things are very reasonable. Sometimes you have to be unreasonable to get change, and so thank you for advocating that. I totally agree. JB, what comments do you have in closing? Anything you'd like to emphasize or any final thoughts?
Yes, basically the region is open for business. Let us know if you have any question, any comment. We are always available. We'll be happy to receive you. If you want to come and visit, usually we can pick you up at the train station, at the airport, and show you around. We'll be very happy to show you around, basically. Yeah, and yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Doug. I'm sorry, I actually didn't explain what I do in all of this very well. I'm actually the person that might help you out after you've already talked to investees in France, and they have good connections, and I've worked in the details. So perhaps that small or event that you're trying to organize, and you really want to understand, okay, how does the French culture understand my invitation, or how should I be with that at that certain event. There are a lot of subtleties between the two cultures that I personally am learning more and more about every day, and I can really help you with that. So it's a little bit more individualized approach, and it's really dealing with the intercultural aspects of the relationship.
But that makes a lot of sense. So you're saying that JB would be doing the big deal in terms of making the decision, yes or no, but then now you've made the decision, right? So you've got to implement, and
Yes.
you just can't make a decision and have it happen automatically. You have to navigate cross-cultural issues that you help
Exactly.
with. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you both. Really great information, and both of you are available. If you're watching this at some point other than live, then the information should be in a blog post. And both of these folks are members of Global Chamber, and you can reach out to them directly. Find them fairly easily, either on LinkedIn or through membership, or if you have any questions about anybody that you're meeting with at Global Chamber, send a message to me, Doug at globalchamber.org, or Cesar at globalchamber.org, and we'll find a way to help one way or another. It is evening here in the US, and I can say in 14 hours, I believe our next event happens. Although it may be, there's the launch for El Salvador, which I think happens later in the day, but in 14 hours, we have an event that is focused in on the Mandela Washington Fellowship. So it's about 30 young global leaders from Africa, from a variety of different countries, and we're going to be talking to them about what they're involved with. And from our experience from that, and I don't know if Christopher's still on the call, but Christopher has led that conversation with another group, and we've had other groups from them, and they're always amazing. They're just really extraordinary. So if you do any work in Africa, or you just need some inspiration, definitely check that out. And then later in the day, we do have our El Salvador launch. And then in about 24 hours, almost precisely from now, we have a similar conversation that we're having today about Japan, and a little bit more specifics about some of the chapters we're launching there. Cesar, I don't know if you're available to chat or to say anything. Did we leave anything out? Do you have a moment to say any final words?
Well, Doug, I'm going to jump in. This is Chris Herring. I just want to say
Chris.
that your comments about the Mandela Fellows is going to be a great event. Again, just being able to connect with so many young people from around the world. I know when we did it here in Texas, we had 19 different countries that we touched. And as we touched them, we saw that they had a need to grow their business, a need to really be the launching for their various countries. We had 19 countries that were represented. And then we also had the Young Americas Initiative that we also participated in from Central America, South America. And again, these are young people who are in business, and they are trying to make connections around the world, and Global Chamber just happens to be the very best spot for them. So I'm very pleased to participate with you and seeing these young minds go to work, and then also for us allowing them to be able to tap into our Global Chamber so that they can actually see the power of what uniting in a global tribe is all about. So again, thanks for the shout out, and I look forward to seeing you on that very soon.
Yeah, and I think I've heard the number that 60% of Africans speak French, and I'm not sure what the 60% means, but it's certainly, that's a bridge from what we're talking about here to Africa. So something to keep in mind. I don't know, Renee or JB, if you end up dealing with many African companies that are coming into the Grand Est. But I think we'll certainly see that over the coming decades, right, as the countries develop.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I do have the same feeling. Personally, I'm based in Asia, so I cover more projects in Asia, but I also come across companies, the last one being in Togo, that somehow have a project for Europe and France. There's a strong connection. Language and culture are very important. And obviously, there's a strong link between Europe and Africa, the whole of Africa.
Absolutely. Cesar, did you have any final comments? Or otherwise, we'll close the room. And hearing none, it's quite late in Puerto Rico, so that's very understandable. Thank you, everybody. Merci beaucoup, Indira. Thank you for joining us, and also merci beaucoup to both JB and Renee for educating us and connecting us to a very important region that I'm sure we'll be hearing more from. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening or day. In your case, JB, enjoy your